Warning: the following broadcast is not approved by your teacher, university, politician, or government. Side effects may include skepticism, better reasoning skills, liberty, peace, and an escape from the woke.
Welcome to the show. I am your host, LV Muniz, and this is a portion of episode 88, Our Demoralized Democracy. If this is your first time checking out the show, just wanted to say we do monthly live streams, and what you're listening to is a portion of that live stream. So we've got 6 episodes in this block, and I hope you enjoy it. Let me know your comments. Make sure you subscribe at beenawake.com. And before we get into it, because of when I'm recording this, I just want to wish everybody who's listening, who celebrates, a Merry Christmas. And of course, I wish everybody a Happy New Year. I hope 2024 brings us many exciting stories that we get to unpack here at the Project for Better Sense Making. So in this episode, like I said, 6 segments. Starting out, we're going to talk a little bit about my changing politics and the analysis, the mode of analysis I use, and how that differs from where I would have been in the past. The second segment of the episode is about Dear Patriot, No Identity for You. I talk about a piece I wrote, Dear Patriot, You're Supposed to Be Demoralized. And I tie that into a larger conversation about Israel-Palestine and who gets to have an identity in the West. I think it's an interesting thing to examine, given especially the conflict in the Middle East. Then we move into all the worst elements of narrative journalism. We analyze that Deadspin story of a hit piece on a 9-year-old boy because he decided to wear face paint to an NFL game, and just how much that shows us about what is a decaying media ecosystem. But it still has a lot of power, and that's why we need to keep an eye on it. We also talk a little bit about Ibram X. Kennedy, and we also talk about Elon Musk in that episode, so make sure you check that one out. Then we move into a quick conversation about Argentina, Spain, and Ireland, some recent unrest and election changes there that are very interesting from a geopolitical perspective, but might be lost in the day-to-day coverage of most of the shows that you listen to. We'll spend a little bit of time on the GOP debate. That's 88.5 and 88.6. I try to tackle a little bit of a question of, are we dealing with an immigration at the moment at the southern border right now? Are we dealing with an invasion? Is it something else? I think there's an important conversation to be had here that most people aren't willing or interested in having. So I hope you join me on that. And then we also do our little roundup at the end there. We have some fun stories about Gavin Newsome cleaning up San Francisco. Why? Because he can. And also dating in your 30s. So I hope you like this episode. If you would, if this is your first time listening, please subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and then go to beenawake.com, subscribe with your email. It's the best way to keep in contact. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So, like I said, I want to spend a little bit of time here talking about the differences between what we see today and what we've seen in the past in terms of immigration. And the thing I want to put in regards to this is immigration or invasion, because a lot of people on the right will talk about the modern immigration as being an invasion. And as I was saying before, I thought there's a couple of things I wanted to show you here in regards to this, because what's also very interesting about the timing of the attack of Hamas in Israel is that it was starting to go around the time that there's legitimate issues with this migrant crisis occurring, so legitimate that you've seen governors across the country starting to address it, and even the mayor of New York City going to South America to investigate the problem, right? This was what's his face, Eric Adams, went down there very, very recently, like almost right before all the chaos broke out in the Middle East. So it's not really something that people are able to ignore anymore. And I thought this video was interesting. Now you can see a lot of different videos of people here, and we don't really need sound on this, but you can see a lot of different videos of people at the border from various parts of the world. But what you see here are a bunch of people from China, and they all have backpacks, and they're all sitting in a very orderly line, and they're all waiting to be processed because they know they're going to be let into this country. most of what your average liberal believes about immigration today and the border is false. But they are led by a certain impulse to always accept the other. There's evidence that a lot of the women during these journeys are raped, that children are raped, children die, people bring their children up with them, and it's horrible. And everybody watching this can understand why people would want to come to America. For as hard as we work, for as difficult as things can be here, it's still a better economic condition for the people coming, and it offers a better future for their children. So while Ibram X. Kennedy would think that I can't engage with humanity because I'm white or something like that, I do, in fact, have profound sympathy for a lot of these people, and I understand their story. But what we've seen, but it is worth noting as we look at this, there's only a couple of women coming through. Again, I'm not saying this is representative. This is just one in particular that I found today. There's not a lot of women. And in fact, a lot of these men could be considered of fighting age. Now, does that mean it's an invasion? I guess it depends on what you mean by invasion. And I think in a non literal sense, it's true, but in a literal sense, it's actually untrue. At least you think that until you hear Dick Durbin talking.
What troubles me about the debate now about the southern border is it is one half of the immigration equation.
It's one half of the immigration
equation. Yes, we need order at the border. Yes, we need to have changes in the laws that reflect the reality of the overwhelming numbers from all over the world who are coming to our shores and our border. But there's also an incredible demand for legal immigrants into this country even now. The presiding officer, my colleague from the state of Illinois, has legislation which addresses one aspect of that. Her bill, and I hope I describe it accurately, says that if you're an undocumented person in this country and you can pass the physical and the required test, background test, the like, you can serve in our military, and if you do it honorably, we will make you citizens of the United States. Do we need that? Do you know what the recruiting numbers are at the Army and the Navy and the Air Force?
So we should recruit undocumented people because military numbers are down. Now, if you didn't know, this is actually something that goes back a long way. A lot of people who are immigrants or who tried to come to this country have traded years of military service to be in the military to themselves gain American citizenship by spending time in the military. So this isn't so crazy. And I guess I'm gonna have to visit this episode on another show a little bit earlier in the context of the conversation, but this is too simple a binary to understand what's going on. And that's why every time I've written about it and every time I've talked about it, I've put it in the frame of human migration in the 21st century. The way human beings in the past migrated for we might say climactic conditions. Today we move for economic ones, and that's something that nobody talks about in the right frame because everybody has a political dog in this fight. So we're moving into our wrap-up segment. Got a bunch of videos here that I want to kind of play for you guys. We're going to kind of rapid fire go through them, and then we're going to break for today, and we'll talk about things, I don't know, next time, probably in the new year, maybe at the end of the year. I do want to start doing some shorter segments with stuff that comes up, so I'll have to figure out how to do that. But well, we've got a bunch of stories here, so let's just start through. So this one is Cardi B based. Let's listen to this. Oh, this is a 5-minute video. Never mind. She complains in this video about taxes and that they're going overseas and not going to people here at home. So you thought this was short, Carlos? Well, thanks for still being here, brother. You said this is, I mean, we're an hour 37 in of a monologue. It's it's tough to keep up steam by yourself, but I appreciate everybody who stayed around and listened. And I do very much enjoy doing these things. So the first one, one of the first ones I wanted to talk about here is this is a 17-second clip from Gavin Newsom, completely owning the fact that they did exactly what they did in San Francisco.
For months and months and months prior to April, I know folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true. But it's also true for months and months and months prior to APEC, we've been having different conversations. I know folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy...
A lot of people use this video to bash Newsom. I think it's a brilliant example of how he's able to control a narrative and spin things to his perspective. You know, there was that other video that was going around of him like knocking over a kid and like him kind of like turning it into a wrestling thing and oh, how funny. Again, if you right, most people who call themselves journalists are just propagandists looking for facts to suit their narrative, and we as the public are also trained to do that as well. So most of what we think political analysis is just taking facts to suit what we already believe instead of analyzing things for what they are. And I think Gavin Newsom's very savvy. He's very dangerous. And while I might look at a state like California and never want to move there, there are still plenty of people who do. And the way he brazenly owns the fact that, yeah, they cleaned up San Francisco not to help Americans, but because fancy leaders were coming. How do you touch a guy like that? How do you touch a guy like that who says all the right things in the political realm? I thought this story was interesting. This might have slipped in your radar, but two gay men who both attended law school filed a legal complaint against the city of New York, arguing that not having access to a woman's reproductive potential is a form of discrimination, and they are entitled to have the city pay for a surrogate. Now, this is an article from 2022, but apparently these two guys are saying that the government should pay for surrogacy. Now, this brings up an interesting question about surrogacy in general, in that it relates to it. And speaking frankly, I can understand the impulse for surrogacy, but I think in practice, it would benefit people. It would benefit, let's just say, heteronormative gays who still want to raise a family themselves. It would benefit them to maybe go the route of adoption and to convince people of that instead of getting designer babies where you're kind of causing a trauma at the beginning of a child's life. I wanted to highlight this article, not to gay bash or not to do anything ridiculous like that, because I thought this was a great example of what I mean when I say that the left is chaos and that leftism is the ideology without limit. Every bond must be broken. We all must be set free, right? That's the idea behind what leftism is. And a story like this reinforces that for us by reminding us that even the most basic bonds of human intimacy, namely that between a mother and his child, must be broken for what? For the sake of progress. You might have seen this video. It's like you have this young girl who...
This is my first job, like my first 9-to-5 job after college, and I'm in person, and I'm commuting in the city, and it takes me fucking forever to get there. There's no way I'm gonna be able to afford living in the city right now, so that's off the table. Like, fucking duh! If I was able to...
So this poor girl complains about it, and everybody wanted to go out there and say, oh, the Zoomers don't know how to work. But let's be honest. Most corporate jobs suck. Then we had Mr. Zelensky coming out and begging the United States for money and basically saying, give us some credit and then we'll make it back. We'll pay you back at the end of the war. Not a great look for a world leader, somebody who's trying to, be the best for democracy. And then we're going to, I think we're going to end on this one. I got a couple more, but we're just going to end on this one. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that this girl was this is definitely kind of funny. And as somebody who just hit 31 and who's very happy to be in a relationship at the moment, and will continue to make sure I can be in that relationship for the rest of my life, I can understand the humor of this, but it does also show some of the problems with modern dating in America. So I thought we might watch it together.
Hi, wow, you have the exact amount of hair that you have in your profile photo. You have no idea how refreshing that is. Sorry, before we order drinks, can I just lay a few things out onto the table so we're both not wasting our precious time so we could be answering unread emails?
I'm personally not one for answering unread emails on the weekend, but sometimes I do. So yeah, sure. Let's talk.
So I'm looking for a husband and someone to have kids with.
Love it. Actually something that's great. I wish more women were open about that in the dating world.
Ooh, yikes! I know.
What do you mean, yikes? That sounds great.
I'm not saying right now. You don't have to impregnate me on top of these menus. That's just what
Could be fun though.
I'm looking for right now. So if commitment is like the boogeyman to you, I totally get it. But boo. Also, I have never come to completion.
Ouch.
Solely by having an eggplant inside of my flower garden.
That's for a penis inside of a vagina.
It's important that you know that. In my multiple years of being sexually active, it's never happened, not once. So I appreciate you not making your entire personality about being the person who changes that.
Just a vibe. Very uptight.
It's going to affect your manhood. I'm probably just not the girl for you. And I'm definitely not going to spend the next 10 years pretending like I am, if you know what I mean. I'm a feminist, shocker.
Oh, that's why you're single.
And I'm not necessarily saying you have to be. Labels can be weird. I just would prefer you not think that any man who willingly went to go see Barbie was gay by default.
Who said that? It was a great movie about Ken taking charge of his life.
Also, that being said, my best friend's on standby and she will come save me immediately should you say anything even remotely resembling an Andrew Tate quote.
Oh, well, I don't really like him, but I could easily sound like him if I wanted to.
That one's just for my safety. Now, last but not least, I'm looking for someone who wants me as a partner, not a cheerleader. The blonde hair can sometimes throw people off. So if you want a little more rah-rah, sis, boom, bah, crash free, you're a very attractive man. That's why you're here. I'm sure you can find a variety of options available to you at the local mall. Now, that being said, guys, do you feel like we're on the same page? Can we order a drink and try not to talk about our ex for the next hour, or are we reading different chapters?
Not talk about her ex for the next hour. At least sounds like she's trying to get over somebody. Obviously, there's an element of humor in that story, but it does speak to something deeper about the issues with modern dating that I've hit on multiple times. Namely, that for most people, there's not a sense of alignment in that regard. And in fact, I do think that the modern feminist impulse to always have a woman striving for independence, part of what's necessary for a relationship is a set of dependence from one person to another. And I've said, and I've covered recently on the show, that the red pill is just a reflection of the feminist space. So they're their own version of messed up, and they have this belief of dominance that I don't think actually comports properly onto human relationships. But wrapping up our thoughts here in the last little bit of the episode, I do think there's an element of that I've learned in terms of being in a relationship recently, is that it is just as much about the dependence of one person on the other. Both people together, not as partners, but as a man and a woman trying to make sense of this crazy, ridiculous world that we all live in. So, sorry, guys, I'm trying to cue my outro music and it doesn't want to play. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Hope you all enjoyed it. Do me a favor, go follow me on all social media at the LB Muniz. If you like what you heard today, go to binawake.com to subscribe for future updates. My name is LB Muniz, and I am not one with the woke.